Hello and welcome to our show. I'm Awa Lodmel.
And I'm Douglas Lodmel. And today we're talking about relationships. So, well, my love.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Are we qualified is the question.
Well, I mean,
what does it mean?
We're in a relationship, so I guess we're
That's right.
semi-qualified.
That's right.
So, this is a big topic.
It is.
And everybody's always struggling with relationships.
We all are.
Look out in the world today, there's just, 9 out of 10 relationships are what I would call subpar.
That's right.
Less than ideal. It's kind of, and certainly 5 out of 10 of them are just kind of suffering. Like, wow, that's painful to be in that relationship.
That's right.
And we say relationships. I mean, there's romantic relationships, marriages. There's just
siblings, parents and kids. I mean, it's all relationship. And it's so funny because growing up, you're thinking the only relationship you have is with your partner, your companion, your husband. We are not teaching since childhood that every relationship is almost like a marriage relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I think that's where we should start. That from childhood, we shouldn't. We're not going to should, but just saying, it will be amazing that that the child is aware that every relationship in their life is as important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's later on in my life that I realize the importance of every relationship I have with everything. And right. I come to the conclusion that, wow, I'm married to everything, and everything is married to me. Right, quote unquote marriage.
Yeah.
Right. So I see myself telling my kids, yeah, you think you're not in relationship with me, but you are.
Yeah. Well, we are, and what I think is interesting, having kids together, we have
absolutely
3, almost 4 kids, because
yes.
we have a godson we consider our son, so 4 kids. And the thing I think is most interesting is we think that our relationship with them is where they're learning about relationship. But what I've noticed is that it's actually our relationship, it's yours and I's as parents, that I think they're learning the most.
That's true.
Because they're seeing us in relationship.
That's right.
And I can see it back to my own parents and all the other parents of my friends and people. And I can see they end up in relationships that don't look like their relationship with their parents, but look like their parents' relationship with each other.
That's right.
So tell me what you think about that and how that informs you as a parent.
Well, again, for me, my experience, all relationships that I have is almost like a marriage relationship. And I see that in the mind of a child, they look at the parents, they kind of copy the parents, but there's always something left that is, when I grow up and I have a husband, then I will be applying this. No. The practice starts when they're a child, but that practice, when you say relationship, it's nothing but just being aware of the other person, being aware of their needs, being separate than yours, but yet, because of the respect that you have for them, the love that you have for them, you are standing for them. Doesn't matter what you want or like at that moment. To give you an example, when you're a child, you think that your parents owe you everything.
Really?
Yeah, right? They're entitled. There's nothing more entitled than the kids.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're asking of them anything, the littlest chores, then you get back, well, no, not now, right? And that's the thing. I tell them, no, that's not how a relationship works.
Right.
When I stand for your needs, when I don't even have to do it, you have to pay back attention and give back at least to the level that you can.
So the practice is practicing now with their parents as their first relationship.
With their parents.
And
with their
friends.
Siblings. With their siblings.
Big time.
Absolutely. And I always go back to that question that I asked them. Who is talking to you and who is asking of you? And they go like, my brother. Okay, all right. And who is your brother? I don't know, because when you are triggered, you don't want to go to that place where you know damn well who is your brother, or who is your husband, or who is your wife. We have a saying in Africa that says, "Buben no doyul, dara do doy," which is, if one is not enough, if you can't count on one thing, you cannot count on anything. And that one is to remember that slightly 1 second, that gift that person is to your life. And if you can hold on to that, I think you can forgive everything. And forgiving, again, doesn't mean that the person did something wrong to you, that you have to forgive them. They made a mistake because they're human, but you can remember who they are to you. So back to relationship, for me, it is based on those foundations. And that's why I think we thrive as husband and wife and as parents, because that one is the one that we hold on to. Doesn't matter what life throws at us, right? Do you agree to that?
Yeah, I agree to that. And then let's make it more clear.
Yes.
Even, because I know what you're talking about, but it's when you say the one,
yes,
that one,
yeah,
precisely what do you mean by that?
Good question. What I mean by that is, let's say, a brother and sister relationship.
Yeah. Right?
Right now, I have a friend who's going through that relationship with the brother. That is very tough, right? She's suffering, and I'm sure he is too. They used to be very close. And anytime she's talking about her brother now, she's talking about her frustration and her pain. But I dialed it back and I said, do you think you know your brother? Is there one thing that you can tell me that your brother had ever done that you know there is something good in him? And I see that anytime that I ask those questions, first of all, the person want to just deny it, and because they're mad. Right. But when you just deep down look at it, there is that one thing that you can count on. And if you just go back to it and talk to that brother from that place, maybe you're going to get somewhere. And that's what I mean. We wouldn't be in relationship if it didn't start in a good way. No one would.
Well, some relationships, like siblings, you're kind of stuck with, right?
Yeah, you're kind of stuck with it.
And there's siblings that I will never speak to each other again from whatever. So I'm trying to dial in on when you think about it, because we can all think about one good thing.
Exactly.
Even in a terrible relationship.
Yes.
Let's just say a marriage that went bad and they don't want to talk again. Of course, you can think back to something that was good.
Absolutely.
So when you're talking about going to that,
yes, what
does that mean in the context of now she's struggling with this brother that is not right now doing anything that makes sense? And this is in the context of, the parents dying and the money and fighting over everything, and what do we do with mom, and how do we handle everything?
Yes.
So it's always lots of emotion,
absolutely,
lots of struggle.
Yes.
And they have different ideas about what's best.
Yes.
So when you're talking about this, let's just use her as an example. What are you asking her to do? What specifically do you want her to do?
And I understand that question you just asked. And again, what I hear in that question is most of the time what people tell me. I am free to cut it loose because so-and-so or my brother is not to be, I cannot live with it. Okay. And
right. I can no longer trust him.
I can no longer be in relationship.
Right.
And this is not to be in bad relationship. This is to get peace of mind.
For yourself.
For yourself.
Okay.
There is this thing about relationship that we think that we can please the other person or the other person can please us. That will never happen. Mm-hmm. There is no human being that is made to be here to please you. Mm-hmm. They are doing them. And you are free to say, I will not be in relationship with my brother. Now, the suffering part that is lingering, that is making you depressed, that is making you stay at home crying and saying, what's wrong with me? How can I be in such pain? How did he do this to me? That's what we're talking about. That's what I am talking about.
Okay.
Is to give you the peace of mind. Mm-hmm. And if you can remember that there was good time, hold on to those good times and move on.
Okay. So
right?
If you're trying to get something done together, you need to work together to help mom.
Yes.
How does that help?
Oh, well, how does that help is at least if you can get you talking to somebody who already feel guilty, in pain, judge, and you're talking to them from a place of anger, you're just fueling more oil to the fire. Mm-hmm. But if you can just take them to the moment that where you trusted them, where you respected them, and where you care for them, maybe you can accomplish something with them back again. Make sense?
Yeah. So you're saying by you moving to the moment where you're not seeing them in this judgmental way.
That's right.
You moving to that moment, and what you're saying, it's kind of like an actor. When they teach an actor how to cry, they actually say, bring up an emotional moment, put it in your mind, go back there,
that's right.
Well up the tears, get them rolling, right? And so when they're crying on screen, they are thinking about something emotional. It's just not something that is on screen.
Absolutely.
It's something in their life,
yes.
Right? So I'm hearing you say, kind of like that. Go back to who you know, a time when you guys were connected.
That's right.
Where you can, and don't expect them to be in that spot. You don't need them to be reciprocating, but you go there.
That's right.
And then speak from there.
From there.
And then just see what happens in that communication, in that relationship.
You know, I have yet not seen it work for me and my relationships in my life.
Yeah.
And on top of it, when it's genuine.
Right.
You know,
I think it has to be genuine. Otherwise,
it has to be genuine.
It's not real.
You have to go back to those places. You have to let go of the anger and remind yourself how great of a time, or when that person did something. By the way, talking about that, I read one time in this part of Africa, when somebody does something wrong, instead of putting them in jail, the whole village come in circle around that person, and every person say whatever good that they know that he did for them or did for the village, to the point that that guy is in transformational trance, crying and remembering how good he is. When I read that, I was like,
that's pretty evolved.
That's pretty involved. What an amazing way to teach. What an amazing way to remind somebody. Because mistakes, we're all humans, mistake we will do. But when you reminded of how great you are, because sometimes in life, most of the problem is what it is. Because we are so geared to see what's going wrong that we tend to judge people to the point where they cannot find it for themselves anymore. They can't. Yeah. I see how just sometimes, even giving somebody just a compliment, we have such a hard time receiving it.
Yeah.
Myself included. Right? We're so easy at fluffing the good.
Yeah.
And yet holding on tightly to the bad. I mean, to the mistakes.
Right. Okay, so let's move that into a romantic relationship, into a marriage, let's say.
Yes.
So now you're in a different kind of relationship. You're much more day to day than with your brother, you're now adults. Okay,
that's right.
That's one thing. But now, how does that same philosophy and understanding play out in an everyday thing with your husband and your wife?
Well, of course, the relationship of husband and wife is definitely more intense, more event included in it, you know. So here you have your partner, financial partner, loving partner, parenting partner, friendship partner. So there's so more involved, to the point where we don't know at the end of the day where you stand as a spouse, where the other spouse stand, and where is the two together. Mm-hmm. And for that relationship, I want to go back to Khalil Gibral, of his interpretation of relationship. Mm-hmm. And if I do recall, it is just like these hands and the fingers. They all belong to this one hand, but they all have their own directions. Being married to somebody doesn't mean you are one. Right. Right? Do you agree to that? You still have your growth to do. And we don't grow all at the same speed and or at the same place or at the same space. So I think when you say yes to marriage, you are saying, yes, I will support you no matter what. Why? It's not that it will not be painful at times to see your loved ones having to go through this hardship of growth. But I will stand on my ground, not judging you and waiting for that to pass. It is not easy to do. Right. And that lesson came to me the first time I lived something that was very challenging in my relationship. And I laughed because I almost hear in my head, it's not about you. Right. Right? It's not about you. And once you know that it's not about you, you can stand for the other person. Standing for the other person doesn't mean I will stay there. Sometimes it means I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. Let's get that one right. I am not saying that every relationship is for you to stay there. It could mean you leaving. That's the lesson that they need at that moment, to remember how much this relationship of the two of you, what it meant, what he said yes to, right? Mm-hmm. So that's my intake with the one with husband and wife. And that's just a little...
Yeah, it can go very deep. The husband and the wife...
We have many shows about that one. Yeah. But what I wanted to leave it for today is a relationship of support. Mm-hmm. And I call my sisters mostly to remember what is that yes mean. Because I see now it's easy to be in relationship, it's easy to be married, and it's easy to divorce, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's like, if it doesn't work, I just leave. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Because anyway, everybody has something to work.
Well, and I think almost worse than it doesn't work, I'll just leave. That's one way it goes. But there's another way it goes, which is it's not working and I'll just stay.
That's right.
And I'll just stay in the not working.
And angry.
And angry, resentful. And I can count many of our friends that are in relationships where that's really what's going on, is they're both Absolutely. Staying. Yes. Sometimes that looks like you just kind of develop totally separate lives and you kind of intersect just, as needed.
That's right. What a waste of time.
Yeah. I mean, I being in a relationship that I consider one that is supportive and healthy and growing, I look back on the relationships I had that looked more like the other one.
Yes.
Which was, and this is something I really want to bring up because it's something that I experienced. And I think in our culture, when I say our, I mean the American culture, most of the relationships that I grew up around as a child were relationships in which the adults, the parents, we're kind of shooting arrows at each other all the time. There was always like a little biting going on. Certainly in my house, it was that way. It was just like, they're bickering almost. It's just a kind of a fight. I don't know if it's based on competition or a power struggle. And then I look to other relationships of my friends and family, and they pretty much all look like that.
Yes.
It was not something that I just thought that was normal. I thought that was, relationship is you kind of always fighting, and then there's love there and you can feel the love.
Yes.
But there's also just a lot of tension and back and forth. And, mine wasn't a screaming, I didn't experience like a screaming, but some people do.
Yes.
Where their household is very, very angry and they're screaming and fighting, right down to just more of a, just an undertone. The first time I saw that differently was actually your sister, married to my brother. And I saw the way she saw him and was like a fan, like really like the fan of my brother. And it was very strange to me. It was and very motivating.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, that's very different. I have never seen a spouse be a fan. I mean, even when stuff was not going great, it was just like she was, and now that we're married, and that's how I feel in this relationship, I feel like I'm a fan of you. I feel like you're a fan of me.
Absolutely.
Like number one fan.
Yeah.
And it's just radically different. And respect is an outgrowth of that.
That's right.
Whereas a lack of respect is really the consequence of that other type of relationship with the arrows shooting back and forth.
Well, when it comes to relationship, it is very cultural, I have to say.
Well, I think so. That's what I'm bringing up. Is that
it's very cultural. When I came here, I was amazed myself that bickering is not only with husband and wives, it's always. And I think it's based on this, how competitive people are here. From childhood, I see it's always like, you have to be better. Look at this one, look at that one. It's very comparing always. In Africa, where I am from, and again, I cannot talk with all Africans.
Yeah, Africa is a huge continent.
It's a huge continent.
Africa, but you really mean
just
Senegal.
Because, and again, even in Senegal, I cannot talk for all Senegalese, but I can talk for my family.
In your family.
In my family, right? And I think it's for everybody that you can only talk about what you know.
Of course.
And yes, we have a totally different opinion about relationship, husband and wives. I am for somebody who, when I travel to different cultures, I take whatever is good and whatever is bad, I leave it. Well, there's one thing that is very good with my culture, and I'm keeping that one. And it is this relationship where you are a fan of your husband and of your wife. Why? I think the meaning of insanity is to go around the world, have to choose a man out of millions, billions, let's say, bring him home and not be a fan of that man. Yeah. That's called insanity to me.
It feels like insanity, right? From where we sit now, it's insanity.
It is insanity.
Yeah. Right? Why would you bring home someone that you're not a fan of?
Absolutely. So when I came here and I see that everything is like, oh my God, you can do it yourself. I mean, you can serve your husband. I mean, even me giving a glass of water to my husband is just like, oh my God. I mean, wow, what a good wife you are. And I'm like, just a glass of water to my husband? Oh, you're cooking every day for your husband. Aren't you tired? Oh my God. I mean, and I was like, wow, this is really cultural, right? It's the opposite where I am from.
Yeah.
Right? Totally opposite. And I love that. Because for me, again, picking up one man out of billions and not being a fan of him, that will mean go check your head, Awa, right? So just to be back to your question, I am very fan of my husband. Very fan of my life. Very fan because I get to choose them and mold them. And it is sad that people ask for a husband, end up not being fan, a job, not fan. A friend, not fan. A life and not be fan of your life. Yeah. And again, that is just the same thing. You heard other people complaining, because we do it here. Next thing you know, it's your beliefs. Next thing you know, it's an attitude. Mm-hmm. And now you have this attitude that is not working for you, but you don't know how to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I have 2 words for you. Stop it. It's not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
What a life. What a stress.
Well, and I think the challenge for people that are in that is that they were raised with it.
Absolutely.
They see it. It's all they know.
Yeah.
And I hear you coaching some women sometimes.
Yes.
And I hear you get to this point where you're talking about this very thing.
Yeah.
And I hear them clicking like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's so hard for them to make the jump, because when the husband gets home, they just revert back to, the bickering and the arrows and the
I know.
Well, why didn't you do this? And because they're still in this thing. So the switch has to come. And, I talk a lot about addiction recovery, mm-hmm. Because I think it's so applicable to everything.
That's right.
And I've never been through the 12-step program. But I've learned about it, because they talk about it in some of the training that we've done. And the very first step, when I say, what's the first step for, addiction recovery? People often say, admit you have a problem.
Yeah.
That's actually not the first step.
Okay.
The first step is you got to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
You actually have
for
to,
sure.
The motivation is the first step. Then you have to admit you have a problem. If you admit, you can't admit you have a problem unless you've hit rock bottom. So what I see in relationship is the addiction is there.
Yes.
The addiction to the negativity, the addiction to the fighting, the addiction to the, the bickering and the shooting arrows at each other and the competition that's the addiction.
That's right.
And until it's painful enough for you to want to change, I don't believe there's any chance of changing it.
Oh, absolutely not. And that is for everything, by the way.
Everything, yeah.
Right? Now, you can make the people around you feel so... to those people, I stay away.
Yeah.
I'm free to say, okay,
yeah.
I'm out of here,
right.
But yes, you're right. Until you reach rock bottom, it's hard to change something.
Right.
Right? The pain has to be big enough for you to see that it's not worth it any longer, for you to make, or watch this show, acknowledge that you do it, knowing that it is cultural, that you are not your culture. You can decide, you can choose. There's other people doing it differently, and anything that is human is you. You can do it. You can stop the bickering. You can stop the competition. You can stop the pain. And decide from today, I am going to support my husband, if it's my husband, my relationship, in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes I see people thinking that the way of peace is a weakness, and that is sad.
Yeah.
Really. And then saying it with, oh, you positive. Oh, how do you get so positive? That got nothing to do with that. This is a work. This is the work for every one of us.
Yeah, it's a work.
It's a work that you have to do for the sake of yourself and everybody else in your life that you care for.
So I want to talk a little bit about how I, coming from the culture of bickering to the culture of fan, I would say super fan,
Okay.
So I want to talk about my experience in that, because I think that's relatable our audience here.
Yeah.
You were raised in it. So for you, that was natural. For me, it wasn't.
Okay.
Right. And the relationships that I'd had in the past, I would say I didn't like that. So I was already very inclined not to be bickering and fighting. Yeah. So it was not,
you're not
like
the type.
It was already easy for me to be moving away from that.
Yes.
But in actually fine tuning that and nursing it into a skill set, because it is a skill. You're learning how to do this. I want to say that there were some things that, now we've been married 19 years, almost 20 years now.
Almost.
And, there was a training period, I would call it, for the first 10 years.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think training's over. It's forever.
It's forever.
But there was a more intensive training in those first 5-10 years where you're really trying to get some stuff right. And some of the things that were new to me were things that were really simple. Really simple.
Okay.
So it was about the language we chose to use with each other.
That's right.
And the language we chose not to use.
Yes.
So I remember once in the very beginning, we were out having dinner, and I said something that basically went like, well, divorce me if you want, but, and then I said something. And for me, that was a very like, I didn't even think about saying it. I certainly wasn't meaning it, in any way serious.
Yeah.
But I remember you got very serious. You said, well, what did you mean by that? I'm like, nothing, it's just an expression. And then we had an hour and a half conversation about it. And I remember it was very intense. It was like, wow. And the result of that conversation was, we're not going to play with that word.
That's right.
Ever.
Yeah.
We're just not going to play with it.
That's
because when you plant seeds, when you say stuff,
that's right,
like divorce me if you want, or well,
or I hate you,
or I hate you,
that we throw at every sentence.
And I mean, you can take that and just run it down 1,000 different little things that you say to your partner.
Absolutely.
That is really, they're hurtful.
Yes.
They make you wonder. They damage the foundation of the relationship.
Yeah.
I see it done constantly.
Yeah.
And they're comments that today I'm so sensitized to.
Yeah.
Like today I look at it and it makes me cringe when I hear a couple that we're having dinner with say something like that. I'm just like, ugh, do they know what they're doing?
Yeah.
But I want you to comment about, why that was important to do, and what, how you knew to do it. How would somebody who's in that start to do it? Because I can tell you how powerful it is. I know now, I mean, I don't play with my words at all with anybody, not with my kids. I just don't play with them because I see how powerful they are.
Well, it's the only answer I have for that, I think, is growing up with parents that never played with words. Your words mean everything, right? So I think I grew up with the home where how to say it? I mean, you living with role models. They were not just telling you what to do. They were doing it. I never seen my mom play with her words. Whatever came out of her mouth was truth. So I guess we learned very young age that your words were powerful. And when we were saying at the young age a word that was not, even to play, even with your brother, and say, let's say, I hate you. It was like swallow it back and never play with that word again.
Right.
So things like that made you grow up and being aware of what to say, what not to say. So when that happened between you and I, and again, I'm a product of a strong, aware woman, and she stood and loved her husband in a way and supported in a way. So I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So already being married meaning to hear and listen and to support. So when you went there, I wanted to make it clear that you get all the support that you needed so that you never say it again, that you never have to say it again.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of that is just testing the water. Is somebody who is not grounded. It happened in the first couple of months of our marriage. So for you, it's just like, oh my God, is this gonna last even? Let me throw that word there and see what I'm gonna get, you know? So for me, it was just like to reassure you that you never have to play with that word again, that you are grounded and you're okay. And that's what I mean, again, as this support your man, support your husband. Listen to what he's saying, most of it, and your wife, most of it is just a lack of confidence. All that bickering is a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It's true. That is what it is.
That's all it is. If you're confident with yourself and you're confident with the love and you trust the love, that you don't have to be bickering. If you're confident and you know you're okay no matter what problem do you have serving your husband? How is your husband going to disrespect you because you were a fan of your husband and you serving him?
Right.
Tell me, how is that computing? Right? It's only because you lack confidence. You think that somebody can come and disrespect you or take something from you, that you put your guards. It's a way of guarding yourself.
Right.
But it shows only weakness.
Isn't that the truth?
It only shows weakness.
Yeah.
People tell me, I remember one day, a friend of mine said, all these people come to you because, I even hate to say that, because you have money. And I said, are you kidding me? How is that computing? How am I the one picking up my phone, inviting my friends and the people that I want to be with? They come and we're sharing a meal, and you're saying they are here for that. What a person who lacks confidence in themselves only can think that.
Yeah, they're only seeing the part of it, the relationship, that somehow you're using the other person or getting something.
That somebody can come and use me. I'm like, no. That's insane. Nobody can use me. People don't take away from you something you're not giving to them. I can be friend with anybody I want. I can be friend with the thief. All I have to do is keep my stuff away. But doesn't mean I cannot be friend with them. I can trust them to be thieves, but I can be confident of who I am.
Well, and this is probably...
And would that answer your question of why? It's the lack of confidence that make people have those low-end relationships.
So there's no doubt that that's completely accurate, that it's the lack of confidence. What people, I hear them say to you, what I hear them say to themselves is, well, that's easy for you because you were raised with it. You don't have the same troubles that I have. You don't have the kind of relationship. Look at your husband. You know, all of these things. They have a list of things why you can have confidence, but they can't.
Okay, well, I'm going to answer to that. It's just like going to the gym, right? Anybody can build muscles. How? Keep going. Keep practicing.
So how do you do that when it's confidence that you're trying to build?
Same. Confidence comes when? When you have done something so much that you now know how to do it. That's simple. So when you practice being caring, loving, respectful, there is a point of time where it's coming back at you the same way.
And there's something else. Confidence comes in conjunction with trust.
Oh, for sure.
And when I say trust, I don't mean trust in a person or a relationship or anything. I mean trust in the process of life, trust in God, trust in the universe, trust that everything is okay and that your only job is you. Yes. That's your only job is you. And if you being you in the most authentic, clear, supportive way that you can be results in this relationship can't move forward, then you trust that that's okay.
That's okay.
Right? So
Absolutely.
you're not attached to an outcome.
No.
That can create confidence. That can give you confidence. So
Absolutely.
what I see a lot of people doing, saying, okay, well, I'm going to try to practice confidence, but it's got to work this way. I need this outcome. I need my husband to be this or to do this, or I need to feel this. And you're not going to get that because you can't control that.
Being confident is being okay no matter what.
Right.
It has
Which
to
is
do
trust.
with you.
Yeah.
You have to trust your own weight to the ground. You have to know that you are grounded in yourself, peacefully, lovingly with yourself. Like I said earlier, doesn't mean sometimes the right answer is to move out of the relationship. Doesn't matter. If you're with a crazy mom that you fear for your life, move, go.
Yeah.
Right? Wish them well. Send them cards. Pray for them. Absolutely. I believe in the power of prayer. That's another show.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to answer that again, confidence doesn't just happen. You work on it.
And you work on it.
Trusting in yourself
through
doesn't just
the
happen.
Avenue of trust.
You work on it every day.
Yeah.
Every day. You look at your pattern. You sit down. You see exactly how you behave every day. When things happen, this is what I do. When things happen, this is what I do. When things happen, this is what I do. You write it down and you say, now from now on, I'm going to do this way. Mm-hmm. You might miss the first time, might miss the second time. By the third time, you might do it, maybe not correctly, catching up yourself and say, oh, I'm sorry, and doing it. But by the 10th time, you're rolling. Mm-hmm. That will never happen again.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I have years of practice because I was gifted with a mother like I had, but doesn't mean it's impossible for any of us. We can do it.
Well, and if you just think about learning an instrument or
Yes.
playing a sport, and your coach says, hey, when you're shooting a shot, you're using the backboard,
Yes.
aim here, not here. You're just aiming in the right spot. And all of a sudden, oh, I practice it. Oh, that does work better, right?
That's right.
Or when you're trying to finger a chord on a guitar, use this finger, not this finger. It's going to be easier in the long run. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. It does once you practice. So what you just said is look at the things that you're doing. So for example, mm-hmm. when my husband does this, it triggers me to this.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to fight back every time he says this. I'm triggered to this.
That's right.
So that would be an example of something where you say, okay, next time I'm triggered to this, I'm actually going to do this other thing.
That's
right.
right.
Do something different.
I'm going to breathe. I'm going to relax. I'm going to even ask him again, honey, what did you say? So that the second time he said it is just less triggering than the first time.
And then, honey, what did you mean by that?
And what do you mean by that? Or, make a joke. Mm-hmm. Whatever you need to calm yourself, give yourself space mm-hmm. so that you can choose differently, right? Because most of the time, those bickering doesn't mean that they don't love each other, like you experience yourself, right? But it's such a waste of energy. And it just spoiled the moment for everybody around you.
Well, it spoils the moment for everyone around you. It's spoiling the moment for you. I can tell you from experience that the long-term love is damaged. It's right. A different kind of love. It's not the same as when you choose not to do that.
Yeah.
There's something else I want to bring up that I found.
We're having a long one today.
Yeah. Well, this is a really important one. And
that's a Saturday one.
Yeah, this is a Saturday morning one when we have all the time.
Okay.
I noticed something that you did that at first I thought was odd and disconcerting. And then I learned was really extremely valuable.
Oh, wow. What was it?
It was that you would choose to make a big deal out of the littlest things. And at first I'm like, oh, why are we having a conversation about this? It was just the tiniest thing, a comment.
Yeah.
You know, the divorce me if you want comment was an example of that. It was like, you know, that we should, in my mind, it was like, honey, don't say that. I prefer you not to say that. And then we go on with our dinner, right?
Yeah.
But no, we stopped and we had a conversation.
That's right.
And that was maybe the first time I noticed that. But it happened many, many, many times over the years. I also see that it's something that with our kids we do.
Yes.
Right? The little things.
Yeah.
And to a point where almost in a way it's like it seems so out of proportion. The response or the interrogation of what happened, it seems bigger than the thing. But I realized something. You're catching it when it's little is so powerful because it's far less likely to ever get big.
That's right.
And then in the times in our relationship where it has been big, I see the response is almost the opposite. It's a different response. It's like it's not proportional. If the little thing required this much response, then the big thing was going to require this much response. It was going to be massive. But no, the big thing actually was almost less of a response. It was more because that wasn't the time for the lesson.
No.
That was the time for the support.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So it was a different thing, which I think accords to the thing that you were referring to. It's like when the big stuff happens, that's not a lesson moment. That's a support moment.
Absolutely.
The lesson moment is when it's not a big thing.
Yes.
So you don't talk about it when your daughter comes home pregnant. Like that's not the time to give the lesson. That's the time to give the support. Right? It's like, okay, well, you give it way, way before that, right? Well, we don't have our daughter coming home pregnant.
No, but let's not have that one.
But that is an example, right? Where everybody's like waiting until something so big happens. And, we have a saying in our family, feather, hammer, boulder, freight train.
Well, for me is all I can think of is these teenagers and alcohol.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's a really good example.
I think that's an example that fit the most. I witness a lot of families thinking it's okay to be 13, 14 and drinking.
Yeah.
Not only drinking, but drinking in front of adults.
Yeah,
with permitting it.
The rationale, I'd rather have them do it at home. They're going to do it anyway. I let them have one glass of wine with dinner. Something like that.
And next thing you know, there's a big thing.
Yeah.
And when that big thing happened, it's not time to talk anymore. The time to talk was earlier.
Right.
Right. And I guess, again, that's the how I see things. Nothing is too little. Nothing is too big. It's just in the moment and in the context. Is this something to accept or not?
Right.
That's all. When a child talks with an adult with attitude, it is to be fixed right there and then.
Or a husband to a wife.
Or
a
husband,
wife to a husband.
Or husband to a wife.
The first time it happens.
Exactly.
When it's little, when you still have the honeymoon part of the relationship, and the very first time something happens, and you're like, wow, that's the first time he's ever spoken to me like that. Mm-hmm. That's the moment. That's not the moment to go, well, it's never happened before. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to ruin our weekend. I'm not going to address it. And then it happens again. And then eventually, it's happened so many times, it's too hard to address. And now it's like, well, I've been doing this for years.
Well, we have another saying in Africa, it's so funny, that says, Lufenchi Saber, Fenna Changorala Dankofalur. That means whatever is showing up at the marriage had showed up when you were dating, but you were not
Isn't that the
paying
truth?
attention.
Yes. Yeah.
Or you didn't want to pay attention to it.
Right.
So, and that's the thing. knowing that little things, and you're right. I'm always, if something is not quite okay, I'm going to address it right there and then. I think it's respect.
Yeah.
For me, to build and build and build, and then throw everything at once to a person who wasn't even aware that you were even mad at these little things,
right.
I think it's very disrespectful. That's my way of seeing things. I'm the opposite of what people see. Me is the opposite. When you do it little, with respect, I will show it to you. And then we move on. I don't like to build. I wasn't growing up in a home where we have, what's the word? When you're just building up and you're so angry. Resentment. No resentment. I can't live with resentment. I talk about it and it's done. It's so funny because we lived that with my son the other day, who was just like, well, I feel like you're angry. And I'm like, no, the minute I said it, I'm done. Just take the lesson.
That took me a while to get, by the way.
That took you a while to get?
That was not obvious because when you would express it, it appeared angry in a very intense way because, that there was an intensity to it, which for me meant, oh, this is something she's going to hold for a long time. Right? Intensity meant time of holding. Because that's the culture I grew up in. So I would see people get intensely angry and then hold it for weeks and weeks and months, maybe years, maybe forever, maybe never letting it go.
I know.
Where with you, it was very much different. It was an intense expression. And then once it got resolved, I mean, it was like the next minute,
it's
absolutely
gone.
fine.
Yeah.
Which was weird to me. Right?
Yeah.
So, but highly, highly functional.
Yeah.
Right? It's highly functional to be able to express yourself because you don't let it build up. There's not resentment.
No.
You don't have this I didn't say it. He's been bothering, this has been bothering me for so long. I'm not going to say it. And then you blow up and say it. And then you say, in a real anger. And it's boiled and it's cooked and it's reduced into this gooey, ickiness that is hard to get rid of.
And that's what I see most people do.
Yeah.
They have just two ways of communication. It's either the lovey, or boom, I'm exploding.
Right.
There is no in between. You don't see it coming. And again, that's I believe very cultural. There's a lot of that in this part of the world. I definitely don't experience that when I'm home. We the type like, pretty much when something is wrong, you talk about it right away. You express it, yes, with intensity.
Yeah.
Because you can use the same voice of every day when you have something serious to say. Right? So you go to that intensity and it's okay because we do it with animals, but yet we have a hard time doing it with people.
Right.
There's just like they say, landmark education, we are afraid of each other.
Yeah.
Right? More afraid of each other than anything else.
Yeah.
So with another human, you're afraid to do it. But yet with my horse, anybody with their horse, that you have to go to intensity. If not, that animal can kill you.
Right. Or your dog. If you want to train them, you have to lock it in.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's the same. When I do, have something important to say to somebody that I have to cross the barrier of the ego and get into their real self, it can be the same voice that is the fun voice,
right.
And so anyway.
So I would like to wrap this up with just kind of a summary of what I got out of this.
All right.
For me, that confidence in being able to do all these things we just talked about, express yourself when it comes up, not hold it, not build resentment, really comes from trust. Mm-hmm. It's really a trust thing. And trust is not trust in a specific outcome. It's trust in whatever the outcome, it's the right outcome, which leads back to this fundamental principle of you got to trust the universe. You've got to trust that your job is to show up in the way that you are best able to show up, continually improving how that's showing up. But really, you don't control the outcome. But your likelihood of a better outcome goes up substantially when you do those things, when you are able to express yourself clearly, address the little things when they come up without fear that, this might be the end of the relationship. It's only our third date. He just did something that I really wouldn't want to be married with. Let me address it right away, and that might be our last date. But that's okay, right? So it really comes back to trust. Do you see it that way?
Trust for yourself?
Trust in God. Trust in the universe.
Trust in the universe.
I mean, trust in yourself. We're always learning to trust ourselves. We're learning to trust our capacity. I mean, I think about if I'm playing the guitar on a song, I trust myself to the degree I've practiced it. If I practiced it a lot, I trust myself to really play it through without mistake. If I've practiced it a little, I don't trust myself so much. I probably make a mistake. So on that trust in myself, I think that's just a function of where I'm at in my development. But trust in God, I can have every time. Right? I can have all the time. Trust in the universe. Trust in the outcome is all things are working to perfection.
So what I hear you said, what I understand is that for you, is that trust is giving you a non-attachment to the outcome.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And because now you are not attached to the outcome, you feel confident.
Right.
Confidence comes when you're not attached to the outcome. And that non-attachment, you are able to be non-attached. Why? Because you trust that God, the universe, you, whatever you believe, is always doing the right thing for you.
Correct.
If you're not attached to the outcome. Right.
Which, as the Buddhists say, all suffering comes from attachment.
Exactly.
Right. So it is exactly that. It's non-attached. Now, I might have a preference. This is our third date. I really, really like you. I could see this going the distance, but I need to bring something up now that I'm uncomfortable to bring up because it's happening and I do not want to let this seed grow.
And to that, you're saying, have it come out.
And trust.
And trust in the best way. Because what's going to happen? Either your partner, person, whoever it is, gets it, understand, grow from it, or show up in a way that will tell you this is not the right one.
Exactly right.
And it's okay.
So if you bring it up, all of a sudden you get the best of both options, right? One of them is going to be better. I want to know now, is this going to be a problem? Is he going to show up in a way that all of a sudden, like, wow, oh my gosh, okay, now I see a little deeper who he is.
Yes.
Not really my cup of tea.
That's
or
right.
He showed up, oh, wow.
Yes.
We're learning together. And now you've established something about how we're going to learn together.
That's right.
I felt like we did that. I felt like you did that particularly well. And that is today, we're living the fruits of that.
That's right.
We now have that solidly built into the foundation of our relationship, that there is that trust.
That's right.
With each other too. And but it comes from a trust in God.
Yes.
It comes from a trust in, I say God, I want to say in the process of life, in the universe. I don't want to anybody to interpret that as listen to that however you want to listen to it. I don't have any attachment to what you want to say about that. I don't have any agenda around that.
Yeah.
The universe.
Yeah.
Right? Just trust in that all things are working to perfection. That is one of the tenets that I felt I was gifted by my parents, is that belief.
Which is so hard. What a gift.
That's the greatest gift that I can look at and say that I was given. I was told constantly, all things work to perfection. It's okay. Don't worry. I know you didn't get the make the team. I know you didn't make the shot. I know you didn't get the girl. I know whatever it was. And I was just always told, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's trust. And it has proven to be the most helpful belief in my entire life. That belief has grounded me more than anything else. And so when you bring up confidence, and I see that you can't have it without that trust.
Absolutely.
That's what I wanted to highlight.
Yeah. Well, because most people live in doom days.
Yeah.
You know, something bad is going to happen. And they're looking for it. Mm-hmm. And their energy goes there. And next thing what you know is something bad happened.
Yeah.
Right? We were both lucky to be raised by parents that didn't put doom days. My mom was the same. I mean, she used to say, God is my friend, you know. So, and I think, yes, it is very important. Mm-hmm. It is very, very important. And I feel for the people that didn't have that trust in a young age, because you need it when you're young.
Yeah.
Because it's the child that grew up to this adult. And when you don't have it when you're young, you're building more fear of life and everything life gives you. You can't trust people because you believe they're going to turn their back at you. And next thing you know, that's the kind of, you always testing from that space of, that place of fear. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why I was saying that that's the reason why the bickering is almost like always saying, am I okay? Am I okay? Can you handle it?
Testing.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to handle it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I like that one. Absolutely. It's all about trust.
It's all about trust.
And lowering the fear. You okay. We okay. Right?
You're okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a great one. Thank you.
That was a beautiful one. Thank you.
Well, which, by the way, every time we sit down, I'm practicing trust, because we usually don't know what we're talking about until we say, okay, what are we talking about? And I always trust we're going to get there. And even when we start some direction, I just trust that we're going to get to what we need to really be talking about. Exactly.
And we're asking you to trust too, that whatever there is for you to get is always there for you, you know. And that's part of the work we do. Wherever you are, whoever is there with you has a message for you. It's either all life is sacred or none of it is. I believe it is sacred. So if you happen to be listening, in the beginning, be patient, go all the way. I can tell you there is a lesson for you here, right now. That's just how the world is. The universe is like that. It's always in the present time. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's
beautiful. Take it and run with it.
Take it and run with it. So, as always, please ask us questions. Please subscribe to the channel. You know how that all works better than I do, I'm sure. It helps, though, apparently. So subscribe, send us questions, and thank you. See you next time. Thank you.